Now from the University of Okoboji, it's Okoboji Broadcast with Jeff Thee.
Welcome to Okoboji Broadcast, everybody. Welcome to the Man Cave here to me today is Dave Rowley. Dave is a Republican candidate for State Senate, what's now still District 1.
Yep.
That's going to change here real quick.
Soon to District 5.
Yeah, soon to District 5. But we're gonna have both candidates in here, Republican side and Democrat side. But first of all, Dave, you've been the county chair, Republican county chair for Dickinson County for a number of years. Mm-hmm. And certainly, you know, when you got a very young state senator who just got in there and a youthful state representative as a chair, you're thinking, well, I shouldn't have to go recruiting for any new candidates here in the near future. And here, a month and a half ago, Zach Whiting surprised all of us.
Yeah, he did.
Saying that I'm going to move to Texas in his first term with some time left on the clock. And so from there, both as a county chair and then as yourself, what made you decide to become a candidate for this office?
Well, of course, when that happened, it was a surprise to everybody, as you said. And so the first thing we had to do was figure out who's going to be running to help fit that spot. And we had a few names and all that, and I thought I'd throw my name in as well. And I stepped up to it and went through the nomination convention in that process. And then I did win the nomination, and then now we go on to the special election. Yeah. So the thought process, honestly, was, where are we right now? Zach did a heck of a job, great guy, and in his skill level, I will miss a lot. Yeah. And he gave so much to our district and to all the counties. So that was number one thing. And the second was who's experienced, who's had the interaction with the party, with the counties on a larger level. Yeah. And we've regionalized quite a bit in our district when we've had events happen over here, right, as far as fundraisers. And we've reached out to other counties too, like over in Emmett and also to Osceola. Right. And we've been involved in a little bit of that and also working together. So I was asked, and I thought about it, and I asked our family, and my family, and Chris, of course, and Chris being somewhat involved. Yeah, yes. We talked about that, how that would work out. And I also had to clear things with my employer. Mm-hmm. I had to clear things with an association that I'm leading right now as president. Right. And make sure there was no conflict of interest or anything against that. But what it boiled down to, Jeff, is are you willing to step up when you're asked to do something? Right. And I thought about it and said, how can you say no? You got to jump in there. And not only that, but what excites me is the people in our district. I look forward to representing them. I really do. Yeah. I really want to be that voice. Yeah. They're great people.
Wonderful. Well, the election's next week from today.
Week from today.
Yeah, a week from today. So we'll know then, as far as that goes, for both of you gentlemen, it's like a dream campaign, only having to do it for about a month. But you got these candidates that are out there running for a couple of years, if you know, and so forth, and a month, yeah, I can do that.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, but it's a very compact, concentrated month, isn't it? But, you know, you have your area of expertise in life. Of course, like we talked about, you being the chair for the county here, but you're also lifelong insurance, working in insurance. Going into, if you win the election, Dave, and go down in Des Moines, do you have committee assignments that you look and go, you know, I could really add something to that with where I've been, or I'd like to get on that committee if possible. Mm-hmm. And it's appointment driven, but if you had your choice of things you could get into in Des Moines, what might some of them be?
Well, I'm interested, of course, in commerce. Commerce is a very large committee. Yeah. I mean, it involves a lot of different people, but the insurance background will certainly help in that. Labor and business relations is also a good one. A lot of people don't know I grew up in a construction family in Cedar Rapids. My dad was a contractor, and I worked as labor. And so I've got a real appreciation for how business and labor works. Right. And also education is an area that interests me because I've been involved locally with the schools over the years, not just when our kids were in school, but afterwards, like helping with certain things like the penny sales tax when that all came about. and also the SAMI, and developing that, and then finding the shortfall for that through the penny sales tax. So education interests me too. I still try to get my arms around school finance, so that I've got a very curious nature about how all that works. And the reason commerce, I'll backtrack a little bit. With insurance, there's some issues I see with the state of Iowa, that we can work on. This is the first I've announced it, but I look at the minimum auto liability limits being $20,000, $40,000, and $15,000. Mm-hmm. Those are minimum limits that people buy online, and they're woefully low, in my opinion. Now, that's just my opinion.
Right. Because
when you expect somebody to have 15,000 property damage limit for if you run into another car, that's all you have. And I don't know about you, but I think there's some cars out there that were worth a little more than $15,000.
I think you're probably right about that. But, again, that's where you're real. And we talk about real people being in the state senate, state legislature, whatever it is, governor. I mean, we're talking real people handling these, and they all have some area of expertise, some area where they have some strengths. And these are things you can bring forward when representing down in Des Moines.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I'd like to think in not in an ego-driven way, but I've got a well-rounded background that I've reached out to a lot of people over my life. And my wife and I both have. And we've been involved in so many different things that hopefully that'll go down to Des Moines as a strength, a real strength.
Right. Now, state budget is a huge part of, obviously, a lot of the reason you're down there. But between education, you've got such a giant portion of that. Are there areas of the budget that you think, there's areas maybe we haven't been paying enough attention to, or that maybe we need to even put more emphasis in this area of the budget?
Well, about 80% of the Iowa budget is schools, K through 12 and post and secondary. And then you have Medicaid wrapped into that too. So you're only working with about 20% of what's left over. I look at the needs of some of our communities. Number one, we have mental health is a very big issue. We've talked about it here in this county. I heard about it in the other counties when I visited their central committees. And that is an issue. We really have to keep on top of that. And I believe the governor and the legislation is looking for remedies for that. I truly believe that, or they're in the process, if not already. But we have to, that's a serious issue, especially in light of COVID.
Yeah.
When we were shutting down, around the country, shutting down schools and all that, there was quite an increase in needs for people who were just having difficulty getting through that.
Yes.
Whether they were students or not, families. And in addition to that, working with a budget, I'd like to see more attention, and that's already being in the process, for daycare. For taking care of these children. We need to jumpstart that. I know the governor wants to do that. And I see that need out here in our rural areas too. How do we do that? What kind of backfill can we do to help support that?
Right.
I'd say also broadband is a top issue for the positives. 35% of this state doesn't have adequate broadband at all. And we need to bring that in and get that taken care of. And again, that's a hot issue with them down there.
Right.
To be real upfront with you as far as other areas for looking at cuts or a sort of adjustment, right now my goal is to listen and to canvass, as you said, around, get different opinions, and go from there.
Yeah, understood, absolutely. But speaking of COVID, what type of leadership moving forward do we need? Do we need to keep the state open and working? Do we need to look at mandates? Just some thoughts on COVID moving forward.
Well, why don't we hit a sensitive issue? Well, I'll be honest, I'll be honest. I think what the governor has done has been an amazing job right now in a really, really tough situation.
Right.
We've drawn a lot of attention to the state of Iowa because of her courage and the boldness of this legislature of in-person learning and promoting that as much as possible. Obviously, there's people that disagree. That's why there's conflicts as far as suits or whatever, wanting to block this or that, wherever. We're fortunate we live in an area where we've had in-person learning, and I think we've really proven that we can get through this and work well. I don't like mandates. I don't support mandates.
Right.
I understand there's critical situations where possibly you need them, but I would not jump to a mandate just as a quick fix for anything.
Right.
Because I truly believe we do have liberties and freedoms of our own decision, and certainly not at the expense of others. I'm not suggesting that.
Right.
But we have to take a step back and just see, how are we politicizing this? Is it for the good or is it for the bad?
Early into it, but there's time left on Senator Whiting's term, so that's essentially what you'd be filling out with a whole new district and so forth. Have you given thought of, boy, I'll have to run for re-election, or I'll wait and see about re-election, or election in your own right as opposed to re-election? So have you given any thought to that at all?
Yeah, and we talked about it earlier. When you do a compressed campaign in 5 weeks' time, I'd sure like to try that other one. Spread it out a little ways and go out and get to know folks and get to be that face and to sit down with people more. I've been so impressed with the number of people and issues that I've already run into. I mean, if you sit down with a group of 15 people in a small group, you're going to hear 15 different opinions.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
So as far as what you're talking about for District 5, absolutely, I'm all in. I'm going to be going and campaigning for that after, June, whenever we have to declare.
Yeah.
And that may come up pretty quick.
Yes.
But November definitely is on the horizon. And I want to get to know Kossuth and Winnebago counties.
Yes.
And definitely Emmett. I work in Emmett. I'm there,
Yes, you do.
and we go back and forth. So it's going to change a little bit. We'll have Osceola and a Lion dropping off.
Right.
But I want to also remind everybody that they will still be served through this legislation.
Of course.
Very much
Yes.
so. And in fact, I'm relying on the.
Yeah. So, big road ahead.
Yeah.
And we'll have to see how things pull out next Tuesday. But
Yep.
would you agree that staying in contact with constituents, talking to them, returning emails, going
Yeah.
to the legislative forums that are
Right.
held throughout
Right.
are a great way just to touch the real people, find out
Right.
what's really on their mind.
Right. And I've attended enough of those in the past to know that that's where you will have people stand up and speak their mind. But there's nothing wrong with that. And I think in the spirit of good communication and even fellowship, because you get to know different opinions. But I think that's absolutely necessary. Emails, any way that I can start to communicate. Technologically, I don't have anything like a Facebook or things like that up, really to go to now. But that is a first step once getting elected. And I know the party will help me, develop those things too. And then you have some assistance down at Des Moines.
All right. Well, best of luck in 7 days, Dave Rowley, and thank you for joining us here and letting people know a little bit more about your candidacy.
Thank you. Thanks for asking me, Jeff, and thank you, Okoboji Broadcasting.
All right, pleasure indeed. Dave Rowley, again, Republican candidate for Iowa Senate, joining us here today, and we will have the opposing candidate with us here tomorrow. We thank Dave for being here with us now, and we thank you for watching us right here on Okoboji Broadcast. Okoboji Broadcast from the studios at historic Arnold's Park Amusement Park is brought to you in part by the Scott Troutman State Farm Agency in Spirit Lake, Quest Wealth Management, a financial advisory practice of Ameriprise Financial Services, advisor Jan Spielman, AJ Spielman, and Erica Wachholz. Ducky's Marine and Motorsports Repair in Spirit Lake. Bank Midwest, dream big, plan wisely, live well. Lakes Regional Healthcare and Avera Partner. Ruthven Locker at the Lake, where carnivores are welcome on Hill Avenue in Spirit Lake. Beck Engineering in Spirit Lake. Be Radiant Laser Skin Studio in the Okoboji Plaza in Okoboji.